Sorry for that. Um, yeah, hi everyone. Today we are going to have a presentation on hacking basics with women hackers. Me and my squad of women is presenting together as we have a little bit of career in cybersecurity and a lot of interest in hacking. Well, we will start with recon and recon tools with Payal. We will have some filters and we will learn more about AppSec with Lalithya. And then we will have a vulnerability, which is file upload bypass, and more about it in detail with me. So let's first start with introduction. I'm Mrigakshi. I currently work as an information security engineer at Finning. I have about 8 years of experience in different fields in the IT industry. I have worked at Accenture, Bacrowd, and Optiv. All of it, a lot of it was in application security, and I really enjoy educating everyone else about cybersecurity and best practices at workplace, and also in day-to-day life, like how to get more secure. And I enjoy finding things that are out of the box or bugs. Yeah, Lalithya, would you like to go ahead?
Lalithya, we can't hear you.
Lalithya, are you on mute? Lalithya, we can't hear you at all.
I can go next.
Yeah, Lalithya, we'll wait for you to figure out with the. I think Payal can introduce herself, right?
Yeah, and I can start the presentation. That's fine. Lalithya can do the introduction with her presentation. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Payal. I am cyber enthusiast slash researcher. I completed my degree in cybersecurity in forensics from an American-based university named as Fairleigh Dickinson University. Currently, I am pursuing my certifications in Security Plus and CompTIA Pentest Plus. I'm an active user of TryHackMe and Hack the Box. Additionally, I'm doing my research on web application hacking and its tool. Today, I will be talking about a major factor in web application, which is known as reconnaissance. I will my agenda will be talking about what is reconnaissance, what are the types of reconnaissance, what are the methodologies we use in recon. So let's start with the presentation. Next slide, please.
Sorry, there's a glitch a little bit of.
Oh, it's okay. No problem. So first we go with reconnaissance. What is reconnaissance? Reconnaissance is the very first step an attacker takes. It helps an attacker to gather as much information he or she can. It also known as footprinting of the web application. It is used in ethical hacking and pen testing. It helps in identifying the weaknesses and also helps in exploitation of that weaknesses. Next slide, please. Types of recon. Basically, there are two types of recon. The first is active recon, and the second is passive recon. In active recon, an attacker interacts directly with the system. But the biggest disadvantage of active recon is that it is easily detectable, because when an attacker sends a lot of packets to the defensive mechanism, it may it makes easy for the firewall to detect it. But there are various methods through which an attacker gathers information through active recon. The first is operating system, services running on the machine, as well open and close ports. On the other side, in passive recon, an attacker interacts indirectly with the system, and it is very difficult for the defensive mechanism to detect it, because a pentester uses public resources like employee information, the technology used by the company. For example, LinkedIn. Nowadays, companies love to share the information on social media platforms, which makes it easy for the attackers to gain the access of the information and to gather as much information they can. Next slide, please. Methodologies of recon. So let's talk about the different types of methodologies we use in recon. There are so many, but I will discuss some of my favorites. Next slide, please. So the first one we are going to talk about is Google Docs. Google Docs, also known as Google Hacking Database. It helps in finding the sensitive information using Google for other sites. Some of the example of Google Docs are in URL, which helps in finding the information through URL. The second is in text. It helps in finding the information in the web application. The third is site. Site helps in finding the information through domain. Fourth is file type. It helps in finding the information through different types of files like PDF and doc and many more. The link mentioned in this slide contains database of Google Docs, which we can use for research. I also use some of the Google Docs from this database, which I'm going to present in the upcoming slides. Next slide, please. As you can easily see in this, I use the Google Doc in URL, which helped me to find an admin panel of the site abcd.com. It also contains some sensitive information, which I censored in this screenshot. Next slide, please. Now, in the next slide, we can see that I used the Google Doc in text, with the help of which I was able to find the chat logs of an web application, which contained some sensitive information, and also it is very easily available to read the chat, which I found through by using the Google Doc in text. Next slide, thank you. The next methodology we used in Recon is Wayback Machine. Wayback Machine helps in finding the changes made on a web page. It is very easy to access Wayback Machine. To access the Wayback Machine, we simply have to go on Google, type Wayback Machine. It will open a page as shown in the screenshot. Over there, you have to put a name of the target site about which you want to search. Like you want to see the changes made on the site. For example, in this screenshot, I searched for a company named Hudson Group, and it showed me, it highlights the date on which the changes are made on that particular site. The disadvantage of this is that sometimes that snapshots contain credential while inspecting the source code, which results in breach and security concerns. Next slide, please. The third methodology of recon is server fingerprinting. Server fingerprinting simply means finding details of the server on which the web applications are running. In the first screenshot, we can see that I sent a response through http abc.com, and I sent a request, to http abcd.com, and in the response, I got the name of the server, which is Apache, which shares Apache server info with Unix operating system. In the second screenshot, it can be seen that I sent and there was an error message I sent to get Santa Claus ABCD. But still, there is an error message, but it is reverting back me with the server name, which is nginx and its version. Next slide, please. So there are some automated scanning tools which we can also use for server fingerprinting. And some of my favorite are Burp Scanner, Nikto, and Map. These all tools helps in finding the weaknesses of the web application and also helps in exploitation of that weaknesses. Up next will be Lalitha. She will be sharing about few application filters and security headers and more about the web applications.
Hey everyone, hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome, thanks. Uh, so, since I missed my intro, I'm Lalithya. I'm also a cybersecurity graduate. I did my master's in cybersecurity in 2020, and then I did my internship with Buckcrowd as an application security engineer, where I used to try different kind of bugs that all over the world hackers use to exploit.
Lalithya, your voice stopped coming
In
again.
Buckcrowd and HackerOne. So today I'm going to talk about AppSec filters. Like these are the basic filters. There are more filters that you can apply to your application, but I'm going to talk about some basic filters that that you need for a web application. So some basic ones I'm going to cover as you see in the agenda. So these are the basic ones that I'm going to cover today. Next screen, please. So let's talk about some basic security checks that need to be added to your web application. So DMARC check is something like if you have a email service in your application and if you're sending some emails, you want to make sure that they are under a registered domain and they doesn't have any malicious. They are not vulnerable to some phishing attacks. So outside in the common world, people will ask, is your service registered under DMARC? So make sure your web application is registered under DMARC, and we have an open tool to check your application is registered or not. If not, you can register yourself under the DMARC account for your web application. And HTTP headers check. So we all know the HTTP headers are quite most important for any application that we keep, but sometimes we miss some important security headers. But in real time, we don't really feel like these security measures are important. Even like top companies like Google, etc., does miss some security headers, but we have some open source tools that are designed and available in the market, which you can go see which security headers are missing, and you can add those security headers to your application. So that's for headers. And then EXIF check is like if your application is having an EXIF images. So sometimes if we have some open tools where ethical hackers use these free open source tools like XF headers, and they grab their information from the images that we use in our web application. So they upload the image, they see if they can disclose any information in that open source tools, and it is sometimes it's vulnerable to information disclosure, locate the server, all these kind of info. So make sure you're hiding all these additional information and being like think like an ethical hacker. Go check and see, make the security checks as possible, update accordingly. So if we have a web application, and sometimes it is the case like we have some external links inside, oh sorry, internal links inside an application. Like your application, web application may contain a Facebook link, a Twitter link, and an Instagram, whatever the social media or any other links. So if you are sometimes users delete their account but they forgot to update the links in your application, so which is a very vulnerable attack, and it may lead to broken authentication if it is caught by an ethical hacker, or sorry, any hackers, malicious hackers. So make sure those links are updated as soon as, if you don't have the account, just remove it. If you have it, just keep the valid account link to the ones that you have in your web application. For external feature updates, it's like, for example, the TLS version, transport layer security version. If recently, if you have heard the news, the TLS versions for encryption, the algorithms has been deprecated. Like, the previous versions have been deprecated in March 2020, and there's a new version which adds the additional security layer, additional cipher text related kind of algorithms, which you need to upgrade it to your application. So if your application is falling way back to the previous versions of TLS, make sure they are updated to the new version. So make sure you're updating the external features as well. So this will help you to protect from broken authentication. Next slide, please. Rate limit validation is a kind of check. Is like, if you have a web application, and obviously every web application normally will have a login and logout page. For example, I'm saying, but there are many kind of rate limit validations that you can apply to your application. And if you have a forgot password link, and then it if a forgot password link, it can be used for many multiple times. We have many automated tools which malicious hacker can use it, and then he can try to send a continuous request to the trusted owner. If we don't have the rate limit validation check applied to the credentials, the fields that you have. So, for an example, if forgot password link, if it's it used many times, then it doesn't make any sense if it's still working, because it should be validated after one time, it should expire, and it should not work. So make sure this check is applied when you have some external links. This also applies for username changing, and account login, logout, and many other fields. But make sure, if you are sending any emails if you want your link to send to an email, they are validated with a rate limit. Next slide, please. Cookie handlings is something like, so we do have many secure properties, but apart from that, we do also have one other property called same site property, which is inside a cookie. And it can be set to some properties, like it has attributes like lax or strict. So if you set those properties for this same site, and for these attributes to same site property, then it will prevent the application from cross-site request forgery attack. So in an application, if you open the cookies and using some Chrome browser extension tools, you will see third party cookies as well as the first party cookies. First party cookies are nothing but the application to that particular to your application, but third party cookies are the ones that you use inside your application. Those are like external. And if you don't set the same site property to lax or strict, as I told you, lax or strict are the attributes, one is subset of other, we can say. So these third party cookies can be inserted by a malicious hacker, and it is vulnerable to a cross site request forgery. So this is another basic filter that we can use. Error handling filter check. This is the most common one, where I think malicious hackers gets information about what's happening in your application, and what they can guess easily. If you have an application, and if you disclose errors, they derive information based on the errors that you provide. So if you provide any detailed error messages, or if you provide any hints that let the ethical hacker decide, okay, this is particular that's known for information disclosure, then it may lead to some other vulnerable attacks. So one example we can say it like, if you have a login field, and if you have a username field, and if you have a password field, and if you enter an invalid username with an invalid password, and if you display a hint error message, something like this user doesn't exist in your system, then the hacker can know that, oh, this user isn't existing in the system. And if he tries with a valid username and an invalid password, and if the error message says in just the incorrect password, then it's easy for him, okay, this username is getting enumerated, so he or she can directly guess. So this will lead to information disclosure. And the other thing I would like to talk about is input validations, which is the most important one these days, because most of the attacks that we see in the real time are due to input validations. So if you have a web application, make sure your each field is validated properly, because all of the web applications nowadays use those fields to bring out data, convert data, send emails, do some other stuff, etc. And if we give an ethical hacker to input a string fields with some malicious payloads that are completely available in the market, and if we send them to an email to a different person, then the person is almost he got his laptop got hacked. So make sure the input field is validated. Like if you have the string fields, that should not start with some characters, special characters, so that they are validated. Even the file types, because almost all web applications will have a file types. So while you are uploading, if you have file types, make sure they are restricted to that particular file types. So vulnerability to file upload bypass is most common these days. And my friend Mrigakshi, she gonna continue to explain about the file upload bypass and demo how actually it works. Thanks.
Hi everyone. As Lilith, thank you Lalithya for handing over to me. As you know, we were going to exploit more of file upload bypass with me. So I'm gonna say that file upload bypass is not the only vulnerability, but is it's also exploited a lot in the wild. And I'm going to talk more about file upload bypass in modern web applications. So I'm going to start with introducing the vulnerability, and then I'll show you a little bit more of different filtering types of that are used to avoid file upload bypass vulnerability. I will give you a small demo and then detailed analysis of that demo. Uh, what is actually this vulnerability? Uploading a file to a web server is generally a feature in many web applications. For example, you might want to upload a CV, certain documents, you might want to upload a video presentation, or any other files that you want people or your community to enjoy, some important documents that you want to send to the government and things like that. So file uploading is an important feature in applications. Well, unrestricted file upload vulnerability is just it just means that having less validation options or not doing enough validation on the uploaded file. What attackers aim is here is to upload some malicious code into the software code, or inserting some malicious code in the website. This is very common in other vulnerabilities as well. But in file upload bypass, since we are uploading a file, it is it could be way more harmful, as we can upload more code into the software just by a file which is entering the server. So, a little bit more about web shells and RCs. RC is remote code execution due to a web shell. So, This is a one-liner PHP code, PHP echo file get contents path to file. So when you see this path to target file, it essentially means that we want to access whatever is present on this path, and get contents will get the contents of the folders or whatever is present on this file path. And this small one-liner code can be uploaded to a server where it was essentially looking for an image or a video or something, but it never disallowed the PHP code to be entered anyway. So let's start with a little bit more about filters. There could be some filters that are just client side filters, and there are other filters that are server side filters. In general cases, client side filters are easier to bypass than the server side filters, because it's way more easier to know what the client side filters are just by uh, checking the normal traffic on the website, uploading something, and then checking the traffic. But server side filters are way more harder to bypass. So it's always better to have more server side filters in place as well. Some of the filters I'm going to discuss here are multi-purpose internet mail extension, actually called MIME. It was initially made to filter mails, that is why the name, but now it is not used in the mails anymore, but it's used in file upload bypass. And as you can see, the content type image slash PNG in the image shown. This is the content type header that's generally present if I'm uploading a JPEG image. Then it will show content type header as image JPEG. But we can easily edit it, and I can show more of this in the demo later. But if we change it to something else, then the server might get fooled, and instead another file gets uploaded. Magic number validation is another type of validation that is put as a filter in many web applications. So when we upload a JPEG file, it generally has hexadecimal value starting with F8 D8. This is the magic number of JPEG file. Similar to that, there are different magic numbers of different files. MP3 files can have a different magic number, which and we can always use a hexadecimal editor to change that value. So we can change the value and fool the server that this is not a PHP file, this is a JPEG file, and things like that. Another filter is file length filtering. So while this is not really a great filter, it can prevent some of the denial of service or DOS attacks. You can find a lot more about a lot of web shells present at printtestermonkey.net. The link is present in the slide. Filtering files on maximum size can be helpful sometimes when some attacker find a vulnerability that can be exploited with a long set of code, but cannot be exploited by a one-liner. Yeah, this could be helpful. File name filtering is another type of filtering that is put there to ensure that there are no duplicates being uploaded by the attacker. For example, appending a random string to a file name upon upload can prevent this. There could be a certain change in the file name when the file name files are uploaded. So if same name file is uploaded, you could just change the name. We could also sanitize bad characters like at the rate slash dot dot slash. So sometimes we use slash dot dot slash to enter another location and save our file to temp folder or something somewhere where it's not meant to be stored, and thus access etc password files and root files. So let's talk about file content filtering. File content filtering is a new way. It has not been very common in the past, but it basically looks for text strings or objects within images, and it looks for content patterns. It looks for different spoofing attempts. It studies how attackers have been attacking an organization or similar businesses. It looks for those patterns that have been there in the past, like, and looks for certain signatures. Malwares could have some signatures, and then detects those files. So this is used in complex organizations, and as it is way harder to implement. Uh, and then there is the last one is extension validation. This allows and rejects a file based on the allowed list of extensions and denied list of extensions. While having a blacklist is possible, we can have certain extensions in our blacklist, but whitelist is way more preferred from security perspectives, because we have seen now that there could be people using null byte extension like php percentage 00 shown in the image. This kind of file will be considered as a jpeg image by the server, and thus gets uploaded to the server. Double extensions like php.jpg and alternate extensions are also common. Let's start with a quick demo. Sorry for that. Yeah, so there's a Portugal lab where we are going to bypass a content type restriction bypass. So we have a web shell file that we have created already, and we are going to bypass a content type restriction. This is the Portugal lab. Just look at the PHP shell. We are uploading it here, and we are checking the request on burp on the other side. So when we check the request, this is a PHP one-liner code, PHP echo file get contents, and it's trying to access the contents of home Carlos secret. As you can see, the content type is text/PHP. So here we are not going to do anything. We will just check the request, check the content type, header, and the file contents, and we will forward this request and try to upload it. So as you can see that it says sorry, and the file has not been uploaded to the server. Now again, I'll try to upload this file again. So I uploaded the file and intercepted the request again, and notice that it's again text/php, and we are just going to update it to image/jpeg. So the file is successfully uploaded, and now let's see it's uploaded in Avatar or no. Let's go back to the account and try to access the source code of Avatar. And yeah, so this I find the source code of the Avatar, and this is the content of the file. We successfully uploaded the web shell and executed it. Thank you, everyone, and we welcome you to ask more questions from all of us.